Chapter Chat by the TV Cave. We're your hosts, Jazz, and
And Stephany.
I'm Jazz. My pronouns are she, her. I am a writer for the TV Cave, and I am here to talk about all things books.
And hey everyone, my name is Stephany. My pronouns are she and her. And welcome to the TV Cave Presents Chapter Chat. Um, where are we
Chapter
going?
Chat is a monthly podcast hosted by us where we will discuss all things books. Um, Before we begin, we're just going to do a little bit of a background about ourselves here. So for me, my personal book of interest that I like to read are science fiction books, fantasy books, and romance books, of course, all types of romance. I'm currently reading The Better Sister. It's a book that I wanted to read before the movie comes out next month.
Awesome. And I am mostly reading romance right now, but I do enjoy poetry and sci-fi and lots of fantasy as well. Currently, I am reading Strictly Business by Stephanie Elves. And I am so excited. It is so good so far. So everyone, welcome to our first episode this month in honor of Poetry Month, which is in April. We're going to be discussing our favorite poets and some of our favorite poems and just a little bit about poetry itself, right, Jazz?
Right, right. I can go on forever about poetry, but in the interest of time and freedom from the yap, I will just say that I had some more recent poetry reads that I want to talk about today. What My Grandmother Meant to Say by Aja Monet from her book, My Mother Was a Freedom Fighter. It really resonated with me because it speaks to things that a woman silently carries while plastering a smile on her face. And we see a lot of that today. And
Mhm.
even if you think about back then, how women of a certain age would carry the family and all of her burdens with a smile on her face, the salt of her tears as she picks up the burdens of others was just something that just really hit me. And then you think about the hope that shines in her eyes as she envisions the freedoms of her dreams realized. So there's a lot to be said about this poem. There's a lot of unpack, but like I said, I can go on forever about that.
No, absolutely. We love poetry that's impactful and resonates with us, where we can see ourselves and our struggles in there. I think that's really what makes poetry so great, right?
True.
So, um, Jazz, what is a book that stuck with you?
Sula is one of the books that stuck with me. There is just something a little bit haunting about Sula to me. I think it's really the ending, which I don't want to give away in case someone hasn't read it. Sula is by Toni Morrison. Of course, I love Toni Morrison, but it's about Sula and her friend Nell and their relationship. And there's parts of it that's kind of, I guess, a little contemptuous between them. Nell has this idyllic life where she's married and she has a great husband, whereas Sula is more free spirited and kind of a wild child, wild card character. But it's really the ending that stuck with me. So that book always comes up, and I like to reread it from time to time.
Awesome. I That sounds actually really great, and I'm glad that you found something that you love. Um, one Probably one of the books that really really stuck with me over the years is Becoming Latina in 10 Easy Steps by Laura Rios. And it's a romance, but it's also about a Latina woman, born, raised in America, and lacking that connection to her roots and just her discovery of trying to to fit into that spot of being Latina enough for other Latinos, but being too little Latino to others. And it was a great it discussed that balancing act. And
Right.
as a Latina living in America, born in America, it's definitely resonated with me, that struggle of trying to figure out where you fit in and how, when you're kind of doing this balancing act in two worlds. So that's a story that's always kind of stuck with me in the back of my head, and kind of living parts of it myself. So, but yeah, that's just a book that I just can't get out of my brain. Always lives rent free.
It does sound interesting, something that I would probably like to pick up. It's kind of always nice to have those things that kind of resonate to your real life. What
Hmm.
about some of the poetry books that you read?
As far as poetry, recent over the years, I've really gotten into Amanda Lovelace and Rupi Kaur and R.N. Sin. Um, I definitely say probably my favorite poetry book is a compilation. Actually, it's called Aloud: Voices from the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. And for those who don't know, the Nuyorican Poets Cafe is a poets cafe in New York City. Does a lot. The vibe is very much Def Poetry Jam. So if you have ever seen that, or know what I'm talking about, that's basically what it is. Just a lot more Latino. But it's a great community of poets from all walks of life and just living life. And so this book is a compilation of some of um, the more famous poems to come out of that organization and that center. What about you, Jazz?
I love a good compilation. So I like to read a lot of different things. For me, I love to read Nikki Giovanni. I love reading Saul Williams. And a lot of poets are also making records now, so that also helps. I would also say Sanchez and Langston Hughes. Of course, Langston Hughes is one of the first poets that I did read. I was given a poem by him when I was about 10 years old, and I fell in love with poetry from that standpoint. The poem was Mother to Son. Life ain't no crystal stair. So that always stuck with me
Mm-hmm.
growing up, just letting me know that things aren't always going to be great, but you're going to get there.
Yes, absolutely. I personally love Langston Hughes, and actually, one of my current poetry reads is selected poems of Langston Hughes, and so it's a collection of some of his best works. And I am trying to make this last, that first time reader experience, and so I'm like slowly reading a couple of poems a day. But he's he was just amazing. The imagery, the feelings, the depth of his poetry, so easily transformed into your brain as a reader, um, and just the struggle of life as a Black person in America in this time. I mean,
Right.
there's a reason why he's one of the greats, right?
Exactly.
um, so I'm sorry. Did you want to go?
Oh no, I would say that also one of the things that sticks out about Nikki Giovanni is that her work is really, really good. And it was sad that we lost her recently. I wanted to do a story about her life for the TV Cave. Eventually, I will do that. But Ego Trippin' is one of her poems that always stood out to me. I think, when I mentioned Saul Williams, one of his poems that I do love, Shellac Clack Clack from Slam the movie, is kind of similar in that way to Ego Tripping. And slam poetry is one of my favorites. I got introduced to that actually through the movie Slam.
Hmm.
So that was always, and Deaf Poetry Jam, of course, but that was interesting.
Yeah, I love a good slam poetry jam. I love the mix of you know, the attitude, the sass, the artistry, the performance of it, of seeing live poetry, with the feelings. And, it's easy to read a poem and just, start to end. Cool. I guess I get the message. I get the meaning, the
Right.
nuances. But when you see it performed in that kind of way, um, it just gives more to the experience, right?
Right.
Just being able to actually see the emotions as the words are coming out the poet's mouth. I think there's no better way of experiencing poetry than actually watching it be done live.
Right, I agree. Art emotion, and you get to see the emotions play out as they're reciting every word. That's what I really loved about it. The pure raw emotion that comes from it. And sometimes just standing up there and doing that evokes that emotion. It allows you to get things out because a lot of times when you're writing poetry, it's a form of escapism or, something that's cathartic that gives you that release. And so when you get up there on that stage, it's really letting it all out. It's one of the reasons that when I used to go to slams in the area back in the day here, um, I never wanted to get on a stage. I would just write in my notebook. I couldn't just put myself up there and be vulnerable in that way. So I always respect those that can do that.
Oh, absolutely. I've been writing poetry for decades now, and the idea of getting on stage and performing what, to me is very personal, very raw, in front of a bunch of people. I give so much props to those who can get up and perform and really let it out there. And I'm sure it's super cathartic for them and super healthy to get all that stuff out. But it's really hard, and definitely um, give them their flowers for doing things like that.
Definitely. What are some of your recent reads that you're reading today?
So, I'm kind of all over the place all the time with my books. It's just the way my brain works. But like I said, I am still making my way through the selected poems of Langston Hughes. I am reading Strictly Business, which is a romance novel. I did just recently finish Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, which is book 2 of the Brown Sisters series. And I hope to start the third and final book of the series, Act Your Age, Eve Brown, sometime in the next couple of weeks, hoping to finish that up by the summer. And I did actually just recently start um, A Midnight Moon. It's another poetry book by R.H. Sin, and another poetry book, actually, Fat Girl Magic by Kat Savage. Both of them are so far really awesome, um, giving all that, female empowerment, good vibes that I'm constantly looking for. I'm always looking for a book that's going to make me feel, powerful and strong in my own body as a woman, and push all that girly love to each other. So I'm definitely enjoying both of these books. Um, RH Sin is one of my faves, so I saw this one. I was like, oh, don't have this one. Clearly have to add it to the collection.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
And what about you? What's currently going on with your reads?
Yeah, I mentioned that I was reading The Better Sister. That's a book about these two sisters. It's a thriller. I don't want to give too much of it away because the series is coming out next month, so I'm reading that currently. I recently wrapped up reading the Unorthodox Love series by Brienne Deney. I found her on Blue Sky and decided to check her out. It was the series were really good. At first I was a little hesitant, but then the more I read, I got into it. And what I liked about the book is it gives a lot of the male perspective, which you don't see a lot in romances. It's
Mm,
about a guy, Sonovi. He grew up in the foster system and he aged out of that system. And when aging out of the system, and you don't have family to go to, you don't have family to rely on, you go into a sort of something of a halfway house kind of, where you have a curfew, you have to get a job, and you have to adhere to certain rules. So he's living in that situation, trying to get out of it and find himself. And as he does that, he meets someone that he ends up falling in love with. What I like about his journey is that he starts off really rough and gruff, and you see his growth as a character. And their relationship isn't a toxic one. It develops so nicely over time. And I really like that about this book, because you don't see a lot of that healing within romance novels, because a lot of times we like to read the darker side, or the dramatic, toxic sides of it that keeps some readers engaged. So this was a nice change from that. Of course, it did have its drama, but I really focused on his journey and how he healed and became a better person.
Awesome. I love that. And I agree. We do see a lot of toxicity in these romance novels. Which honestly, I'm all about it because as long as the toxicity is in the fiction that I'm reading and not my real life, I'm all
Right.
for it. But I've been noticing too a lot of books that thankfully I've been coming across have been promoting positive male relationships amongst men, friendships, brotherhoods, father son relationships. And I feel like, especially in romance, a lot of the time we're focused on uplifting the woman and the woman's journey. And so I'm really grateful that I found a couple of books that are really kind of highlighting the struggle of mental health and expectations, family expectations, um, on the character of a male, on what that does to them and how they struggle, and how they get through that, and how healthy male relationships are okay and should be normalized and should be celebrated. And you know, I really find that ability to have growth amongst both characters, um that's what makes a good book to me. Not just the focus on the one, especially when it's a romance novel. I'm here for everybody getting their love, everybody
Right.
finding their happy ending. So I definitely would love to see more of that. See more male characters and their struggles and their journeys to becoming more whole and complete human beings, and not just, I guess I'm going to marry this chick because I really like her and she takes care of me. So,
Yeah. And I'm not even gonna try to sit on here in front like I haven't read a dark romance, a toxic romance. I love all of it.
mhm.
Sometimes that, dynamic is kind of keeps you keeps you engaged in a book, keeps you enthralled in a book. So I cannot judge anyone for it. It's just so refreshing to see something a little different, because I think with those things being popular, you get so much of it.
Yes. Um, yeah, absolutely. I think that, this is something that I'm looking forward to finding in more books.
Yeah.
I've kind of noticed a trend. I've been reading romance for um, over a decade or so. So I've started to see more of a trend of us getting more of a whole story, and not just, this is our main character. She's going to struggle a lot and then she's going to find somebody and he's just going to be great off the jump. It's just like, no, I want to know how he got there, what he's doing. Cause no one comes into a relationship, no one's in any relationship, no one's in any state of their life completely healed and 100% okay all the time. That's just not reality. And so I do like to see a little bit more of the realness, the reality of life and friendships and love and their interactions with your family, how that impacts people's relationships, sexually and physically and in all manners of ways. And so I'm really looking forward to this, what seems to be, a good path that we're heading down to in the romance genre, at
Right.
least, where we're going to get these healthy, well-rounded characters. Um, so with that, I feel like we kind of went off.
Yeah, we did go off a little
I
bit,
love
but
that though. That's always great. um,
so we talked about our three favorite poets. What about, do you think, and I thought of this question just because I heard Nikki Giovanni or read her say that she feels that hip hop was born out of poetry. Is that something that you would agree with?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think that anybody who knows the history of hip hop, has listened to hip hop, to rap, and has really, listened to how it started, and the things that came from it, especially in the beginnings in the 70s and 80s. You really can't, to think that hip hop and rap weren't born of poetry, to me is just ludicrous if you know the history. Hip hop and rap are poetry with background sound, with a beat, with a melody. It's slam poetry with music in the background.
I
Um,
could, yeah, I definitely completely agree with that. I know some people might disagree, but when you think about, like you mentioned, back in the 80s, even the 70s, like when it first came about, of course it was grounded in those roots, right? And it evolves over time. So I just think of it more as an evolution of a type of poetry. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that I love about poetry is that it crosses time and space and genres and um artist forms. Because obviously, like I said, I strongly believe hip hop and rap come are a musical form of poetry, but then on the flip side also you have jazz music, which is completely, I mean, the best jazz is improvisational. Like it's just all over the place. It is a mix of emotions. It is a fruit salad of all these instruments and all these levels and feelings. Um, and I think poetry is the same. Poetry, some people, we go to school, we learn about poetry, and everything's rhyming. As kids, we grow up, poetry isn't a poem if it's not rhyming. And then obviously we grow up and we learn, poetry just has these different forms. Some people look at poetry and they're like, oh, well, if there's not 16 lines, or if there's not multiple stanzas, or you're not
Right.
connecting, like this doesn't, two lines isn't a poem. No, it is. It is a poem. It can
Exactly.
absolutely be a poem. Um, and I feel like poetry and jazz also have that commonality. And I just think that poetry is just a great art form to begin with. But specifically when it comes to writing, it just transcends just word on paper.
Right. Right.
Um,
I agree. Yeah. So we are going to be wrapping up here. I just want to say that Chapter Chat by TV Cave is going to be a monthly podcast. We're excited to talk to you all about what we're reading and just getting into what the books are about and our opinions here. I'm excited to read Binti by Lilini Okorafor. I think I said that correctly, and finish The Better Sister. I just want you guys to look out for upcoming articles for the TVK, namely The Myth of Unprofitability, Black Cinema in Hollywood, and what happened to the romantic comedy, and my recent article, Let the Classics Be, that talks about Hollywood remakes. So they're remaking everything, and that's getting kind of tiring here.
yeah,
Uh,
let's come up with something new.
exactly. Yes. Let's move on.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like you have a lot of new articles that we can anticipate from you, Jazz. I'm really excited to see your next couple of articles. I currently just have a few reviews coming through. This week we did drop 3 new book reviews. All these books are great romances. I love them all. We've got a book by Evie Daniels, Behind the Forecast. that is only about 150 pages long. And then we've got Before Dawn by Jada West, which is over 500. So, girlies, everyone, readers, my loves, you will find something on on our chapter chat page for book recs. I do have a few more reviews coming up. I recently finished The Passion Parameter by Anna Darcy, which is the second in the Binary Hearts series. And again, Anna Darcy is stabbing me in my heart because she keeps giving us these cliffhangers. Book one ended with a cliffhanger. I had to wait a year to see what happens. And now book two ended in another cliffhanger. And I'm going to have to wait about another year or so for that ending. So, Anna Darcy, please put us out of our misery and stop doing these cliffhangers like this. But it was a great read, and I'll have that book review to you guys soon. So, and obviously, Strictly Business, I hope to finish that in the next couple of days, and I'll have that review for you guys too. So, super excited to see what's going on. Super excited, Jazz, for us to have this podcast going and this opportunity for us to get a chance to talk books. And obviously, guys that are listening out there, drop us a message, drop us a comment, slide in our DMs, send us a message on Blue Sky. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want us to think of. And I'm always taking recommendations, guys.
Agreed, agreed. And while we're here, we just want to talk about the TV Cave. It's all things entertainment, TV news, movie reviews, interviews with your favorite celebrities. Definitely check out the TV Cave website, thetvcave.com. We also have Soap Wire under that umbrella. So if you like soap operas, you can go there for your soap opera recaps and reviews.
Yes, and aren't you working on Beyond the Gates with our soap wire friends, Jazz?
I am. Beyond the Gates is a new soap opera, and it features a core family that is Black, African American. So
Yes.
that is exciting and new. So
Yes.
it's good.
Oh my God, brown and black people have been persona non grata on soaps for so long, and it's always side character who's evil or just ratchet. It's just always so horrible. So I'm so excited for Beyond the Gates. I'm not a soap opera person. I'm really not a TV person, but but I really do want to get into that show because you guys have been chatting it up so much on Soapwire. And it looks really great. So, guys, if you haven't checked out Soapwire, make sure that you do. And make sure to check out and leave reviews on the tvcave.com, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today, and we will talk to you next month.
Have a great night. Ciao, guys. Adios.
Bye
Bye.
bye.